manage buildings in a more sustainable approach. I also run a blog, I have a radio program in Nigeria here at the capital city where we put resources together with fellow facility managers to raise the profile of FM in Nigeria and in Africa, to campaign on how government can manage our resources in the most economical manner to at least maintain the infrastructures and also plan for the future so that all unnecessary wastes can be avoided or reduced, and the costs, the funds, the money that will be saved can be channeled into proper use in future. And I've been trained as an energy management consultant, been with the standard, and also was part of the ISO TC267 team that came about the ISO for 1001 facility management standard. So I'm happy to be here on this platform to share our experience. Thank you.
So our third partner on the table is Graham Constable, and he might introduce himself.
Yes, good evening from Sydney in Australia. Thank you, Marcus and Olamide. My background goes over quite a number of years, 20-odd plus years in operations, building and leading teams that work within the built environment. In recent years, I've come out of being on client side and set up as my own independent consultant. And most of that work has been done either in the UK or here in Australia. I came out to Australia in 1998 and fell in love with the country and decided that I wanted to stay here. The marketplace here in Australia is in many respects similar to elsewhere, but in other respects very different. We have a different setup or groupings of major players in the marketplace from the supply side, and compared with the UK, for example, we have quite a different setup in terms of building ownership and leaseholding over here. So it presents its own challenges, and I'm hoping that we can discuss some of those in the questions and answer session that follows here. I like to see myself as hosting people and then processing all the wisdom and ideas and services, systems and resources, to try and create the environment in which useful activity occurs within the built environment. Marcus, you mentioned earlier about the effects of FM on design. I see that a lot within value management, and I'm a certified practitioner. And I've found that when you do value profiling and in the early stages of concept, you can really start to influence the way a building operates and what its use is for, which then I believe should help FM practitioners making their job a lot easier. So that's me. I look forward to having a good discussion.
So we already have someone in the audience. So it's Clara Gonzalez Tablas. And I want to unmute her in order that she can introduce herself. Hello, Clara. Okay, it might be that she don't have headset. We want to do it interactive, so if you have some questions to us or you want to participate at the discussion, you are able to talk to us anytime. You are unmuted, Clara, and you can start talking and interrupt us anytime.
Well,
Graham.
Marcus, yes, whilst we're waiting for additional people and for any questions that Clara might have, I might kick off if I may. We've heard in recent times quite a lot about the Internet of Things and smart buildings and smart workplace design that's looking at productivity measures within corporates on the back, if you like, of the co-working, advent of co-working around the world, particularly in the entrepreneurial ecosphere that started out in San Francisco. With all of those things in mind, and this is a question for both of you or everyone, is what do you see is going to be the future skill set of the facility managers in the future? And I'm talking about within the next 12 months, 2 years, 3 years. What's your views on that?
Olumide, you want to start?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Graham. Yeah. It's interesting the way buildings are becoming more smarter and more intelligent, and based on the human needs, which are obviously unsatiable. We want more. And it's interesting that buildings now see themselves, buildings kind of manage themselves now, and it's going to take a lot of human involvement away, where robots take our jobs, take our position in trying to reduce carbon footprint in the building, in trying to reduce the demand on the building systems. So for an FM, the next 12 months, 1 year, I think facilities management need to have skills in critical reasoning, critical thinking, and being more analytical based on the available data, because now FMs make decisions based on data, because there's a saying that what you can't measure, you can't manage. So with measurement, you need data to do analysis. You need to be able to do some critical thinking. You need to be more predictive in terms of approach in managing smart buildings and cities. So basically, FMs now, their focus is how can I make my smart buildings now even more smarter, even more intelligent, based on the Internet of Things, the awareness, the globalization. You know, it's really challenging. It's really making strategies to be transient. People solve a problem and move to the next one. It creates agility. It requires FMs to be agile in their approach in terms of managing the future buildings. Buildings are even yet to be designed, the future, even the current ones. So I believe critical reasoning and analytical skill set are very, very required for FM.
Thank you, Olumide. How about you, Marcus?
I would see it from different perspectives. In my heart, I'm a designer, planner, and an architect, and in the other part of my heart, I'm an FMer. And if I start with the first part, the architecture design of the buildings, there's a lot of things coming to designer and planners. They need to adapt now. It's based on BIM. They are working on shared platforms, cloud-based, and so on. And so the requirements of, let's say, the architectural and design FM is changing in huge steps. It's different between our countries, I think. I think it's there's more experience and in the UK and the US than in Germany, and I don't know how the situation is there in Australia or Nigeria, but this leads to a lot of additional efforts designers and architects need to recognize, and also our government here in Germany is starting to make it as a requirement to work in BIM and in the direction of smart buildings, and we have, in order to improve it, I also have asked some specialists and to make sessions while our World FM Day in order to show what is the current status of all this technology. On the other parts of FM directly, I just can see it as a consultant. We need to recognize that there's more and more technology to be implemented in our consultancy services, and we are getting more and more high technologized buildings. So what is for me the key question is our community already able to react on all these new technology? And I'm doing plenty of CAFM and IWMS projects, and what I see there is always a big gap between that what should be and the reality. They are still working in an Excel hell. They are still, which is the lowest level of managing data, and on the other hand, we have really high technology which is exchanging data between it, and for me it's quite amazing to see, and I'm not sure where it will end up. I think some of the project will work on that, but especially here in Germany, the progress is very, very slow. So the skill set for the FM of the future is more to be aware of all these technology to manage it, and what this technology is a good thing because we are getting measures very fast. But on the other hand, we have a huge problem of cybersecurity, because if you remember what happened last weekend in the UK and all over the world with a simple virus and Trojan, it's I think we really need to think about how we can secure our buildings, which are open sometimes for attacks, for terrorism, and so on. So I think FMs also need to learn more and to save their properties from these attacks, and I think especially here in Europe and so on, and the Middle East, it's really a huge problem to secure the cyber security.
All right. Well, I've got a couple of follow-on questions, if I may, on both yours and on Amide's responses. Earlier on, I did a session on buyer-provider relationships, and one of the factors that enables a really good working relationship between buyer and providers, or the client and the supplier, is for the supplier to ensure that he or she, as a company, is protecting the client's IP and security and proprietary information, and so I hear what you're saying about cyber security. The one thing that I thought was missing, or at least I may have missed it on both your responses, is the buildings hold human beings, and I just wonder, with all of the focus on technology and data, are we forgetting that we've got to look after the people? And so my follow-on question is, what about the human factors? And before you answer it, let me tell you, to answer one of your questions, Marcus, the uptake over here in terms of workplace strategies and open planning and having, tailored workspaces around corporates' goals for productivity and innovation and creative thinking. The uptake in Australia is very, very high. But interestingly, the engagement by the people within those spaces is quite low in many cases. And I was at a conference the other week where experts within this field were suggesting that we need to focus more on the human beings, more than we are in terms of focusing on space and all of the metrics around square meters, etc. And so my follow-on question is, what about the human factors skills of FM practitioners for the future? Where do you see that heading?
Do you see it in case of the FMs or the users?
Yeah.
Because I think... Pardon?
What I mean, Marcus, is that the skill sets that the FM practitioners have got to have for managing the workplace in the future and all the future workplaces, where do you see the human factor side of their skill sets?
I see it's really necessary to keep in mind that people also need to interact in order to be productive. So I think with all this technology, sometimes it's forgotten that we are mainly talking about human beings. And today in the TV, there was an interview, and some guys have been asked how many times they are spending with social media, and there have been people which are spending 6 to 8 hours a day just on WhatsApp, Facebook, and so on. And I think what is my experience is to be productive. I have this experience from some of my own company and so on. The most productive time was when people went outside going for smoking and discussing their items. After that, meetings. So it's all about communication, and I think the challenge will be to use also new tools for better communication in our work environment. I think it will have an impact because we will work more decentralized. I'm also using my home office, but from time to time it's necessary to meet at an office face to face, and the impact is that you're concentrating. Let's say you're going 1 day per week to an office and meet. You're really concentrating on the important things which cannot be done remotely. So I think all these facts will also change our building environment, because if people are not using all these millions and billions of square meters, they will be empty. So I think we also need to think about what will happen with all these buildings. I think that is the challenge also of the FM practitioners to manage that with flexible kiosk systems in order to have not a lot of empty spaces, and it will also lead to be that we as facility manager practitioners needs to supply more service in order to support the core business.
Yeah, yeah. But
thank you. I really agree with Marcus on that. It's and I also agree with you, Graham, because if we're not careful, we'll be looking at superficial things rather than looking at the intrinsic and latent issues, the fundamental issues. Why do we manage buildings? We don't manage buildings for buildings. We manage buildings for the human beings that are using it, for their comfort. And if you look at the purpose of facilities management is for end users' value, for the end users to have value while in the built environment. That's one of the most fundamental reasons why we professionals, we are called facilities managers, because we are the best people that can manage the building system effectively in relation to the end user. So it's about the end user's comfort. It's about giving them flexibility at work with the use of available technology. Like what Marcus said, you can agree with your staff. Okay, you come in twice in a week, 3 times in a week, just for follow-up meetings. As well, you can do your follow-up meetings on Skype, on Zoom, and some other available technology, but sometimes for interaction, so that human part of it is not left in a gap, whereby you come collaborate with your colleagues, exchange the ideas face to face. So it's really important. I really agree with you. Amidst all the strategies, amidst all the critical thinking, the data and all sorts, we manage buildings for humans, for the humans' comfort. And if they are not comfortable, if they are not productive at work, if the whole essence of their presence in the building is not achieved, then that's not FM in any way. It will be something else. So it's important. And what Marcus said about with all the tools, with all the ideas, technology, and the space are shrinking. The space are really shrinking because the Internet of Things has enabled end users to do things remotely without going into buildings, and is also a sustainable strategy invariably in reducing carbon footprint, amount of CO2 in the building, and also reducing waste and all sorts. So it's also important that this will also lead us to FMs, professionals collaborating about space management, for them to manage their space together, because in a building of say 2,000 square meters, and with the advent of technology, the space has shrinked. Few people come into the building and you have enough space to use. So it now makes professionals to now come together, collaborate, use their space effectively and efficiently, maybe for return on investment on the long run. So these are critical issues and things like that for ergonomics, for safety. So it's all about human beings. It's all about the people. That's why we are doing it. It's all about the people and means, like I said, any other strategy around. So I really agree with you, and it's very critical that we, no matter the strategy we have, people factor is always at the tip of the pyramid, because that's where we actually going to achieve.
Thank you, Olumide. Marcus, do we have any more attendees that might want to join in the conversation?
Yes. I have seen there's some of the audience. I can unmute you. So if you're interested to come to our discussion, please join us. It's Timothy and Clara. So okay.
Timothy, we've just been having discussion about the future skill sets for facility manager practitioners with the advent of all of the technology and new ways of thinking. Did you have any questions or comments around this particular topic? And whilst we're waiting, Marcus, you mentioned earlier about, and I'll finish off my side because I know that you have some questions of your own, but there's an organisation here in Sydney that spent a lot of time and energy and finances in redesigning their workspace, and there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that suggests that a lot of their creativity and productivity and innovation is done outside of the building when they're in coffee shops and cafes, because the environment there is, they believe, more conducive to the, I wouldn't say sterile, but the engineered environment within the building. One last thing to mention to you, I'm not sure if you're aware of the significant research that's been done by RICS, Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, and Occupiers Journal. They've produced a report called Raising the Bar, and it describes the challenges faced by the industry, the facility management industry, and they've, in their report, they're suggesting some actions to make facilities management a bit more recognized at the executive level. So if you can get hold of a copy, then it's worth a read. If you can't, give me a shout and I'll email you the links. Marcus, did you want to cover some of your topics?
Yes, I can do. I'm chatting currently with Clara, and since we can't hear her, she will write her question into the chat box, and okay. I'm just waiting for her. But I have some questions to you. So let's go back. How is the situation of FM in your countries? How is the business in FM? What are the challenges in FM in your countries? Graham.
I mentioned earlier that the environment here is quite different to, say, the UK or possibly even Germany and Nigeria. We have a number of facilities management companies here that are global players. They're very, very large. And then we have some small companies that operate in this space, mostly in the industrial FM sector. And there is nothing in between. There are no independent organizations that you would see typically in the UK that have got a share of the marketplace. So on the one hand, we have these very good global organizations that are able to leverage off their expertise around the world, but at the same time, the choice over here is limited in terms of who clients can go to in terms of looking after their properties, and we don't have quite as high a ownership number of clients that own their buildings over here. A lot of them are leased, so we have quite a high rate of leaseholding here, which obviously is a different skill set and different approach. But otherwise, it's a pretty active marketplace. We have quite a number of practitioners with skill sets that are very wide in range. Quite a big retail sector here, and workspace strategy and design is very lucrative over here because there's quite a lot of uptake, as I mentioned before.
Thanks, Graham. Olumide?
Yeah. Well, in Nigeria, I envy you, Graham, and Marcus in Australia and Germany. Let me just say that the truth is we are looking up to you. Looking up to you guys. You guys have set the standard, you've set the pace, and we are just trying to gather ourselves together. For example, IFMA has been in Nigeria for the past 20 years, and we cannot really lay our hands on
I think we may have lost Olumide.
It seems, yeah, might be a bit of a challenge with the internet at his end. Let's wait till he's back. What is the situation in case of FM technology? As is it standard already to use IWMS and CAFM systems, or is it still on a low level and managed by Excel spreadsheets or so on?
I think it's a mix. You know, at the high end of the industry, where you've got high-tech buildings, then you've got that high level of technology in use and recognized. And when you go down to some of the more industrial, commercial properties, then the level of requirement for that sort of sophistication is not quite so high. You can even see that in the way buildings are managed in terms of appreciation.
Hello, Marcus.
Hi.
Hi, welcome back.
Yes, so sorry about that. I think there was a network issue, so sorry. So as I was explaining, we don't really have a structure, and that's the truth. We don't really have a structure yet because we are still doing things in piecemeal. There's no binding association that brings us together. Locally, looking at things locally from the local standpoint and based on the uniqueness we have here in Nigeria and Africa. For example, the first thing a facility manager battles with in the country is power. It's power, availability of power to energize the building, to manage the building systems. So the FM does an operational approach to FM. Every day is always reactive. So we are still trying to grow into that level whereby we can look at things from the strategic level. We can plan. We can think about the future. We can even be talking about smart communities. We can be talking about smart cities, smart buildings. So, and again, there's no support from the government. The government owns the largest assets in the country. So, unlike Australia, where Graham just said that most buildings are leased. They are not that owned by people. But in Nigeria, it's the other way around. Most buildings are owned by people because we have a lot of rich guys there that have enough funds to build estates, to build towns and cities. But the setback there is that the campaign is not enough. The education is still at the lower ebb. Even someone that has multi-dollar, million-dollar worth of assets still wants to run it with a piecemeal approach, does not want to engage an FM, does not want to engage a professional FM because he believes the professional FM is going to be expensive if you're engaged in. So the level of education is still not quite there. That's why some of us have decided to continuously campaign, to do blogging, go on radio, go on TV, and talk about these things, invite them for our meetings, organize webinars, podcasts, call the key decision makers, the leaders in their different positions to come around and educate them about FM so that they will understand that while you engage an FM, while you put your assets in proper perspective, indefinitely and resultantly, you build the economy, you build the nation, you create opportunities, you create a sort of productive environment for people to live, work, and play. So that's the situation now, and we believe that this initiative that we started, that everybody has agreed now that yes, we have gotten it all wrong in the past. Now this is the direction where we need to go. Government, please do support us. We need your support for us to be able to holistically achieve this aim. So that's where we are here in Nigeria.
So I think we will close in some minutes our session. So a final question, which is also especially important for me here in Germany. How do FMs manage terrorism in your countries? Do you have already concepts how to avoid that that your buildings will attack?
That's a very good question, Marcus. I'm not sure that it's actually in the forefront of people's minds over here. Certainly not within the FM, the facility managers themselves. Within the security environment and the cybersecurity, it's definitely looked at, but I'm not sure whether that cross discussions are going on. I don't know. It might be. It's a key factor, but I don't think it's within the facility management sphere at any big level. But it's definitely within the security environment and cybersecurity and so on. So I'm sure it's being discussed and worked on, but not within the typical facility manager.
Okay.
I don't believe.
And Olomide, what's the situation in your community?
In Nigeria, like I want to agree with Graham also, because it's a specialized field, I must say, and it's being really handled by the security professionals. However, as FMs, we work in collaboration with them to ensure that all their safety systems, their security systems are adequate. We give them professional advice based on the understanding of the building and the historical events based on the location in the building and the business that is being really engaged in such buildings. So we work hand in hand with them, and predominantly in Nigeria, there's just a region that has such kind of propensity for terrorist attack and is the northern side of the northern part of the country, and their development not as compared to other locations in the country. So it's just the security guys, the military guys, and the private security companies with the use of their security tools and equipment are the ones really handling it. We just collaborate with them, give them an enabling environment for them to work better.
Okay, thanks. I think we will close the session now. My last question has one reason, because let me go to the next slides. I want to highlight one session which is also from Nigeria, and I have seen this session already last year in San Diego Onward Workplace. Stephen Olayagun did really a high-level presentation, and he is specialized on that. And that's the reason why I want to highlight the session 7008 from Stephen Olayagun. He gives you a lot of experience around this topic, and I'm really proud that he has joined our panels. So beside this topic, I also want to highlight the session by Olumide. He is our next speaker. So I'm also happy to have you here. And after this session, we will have a session about international standards of FM standards, ISO standards. It's from Stan Mitchell and Dave Wilson from the UK, and Stephen Ballisti also from Australia. And our last session I want to highlight is about the RICS futures by Neil Shah. He is manager from RICS in the US, and I think it might be also a nice session. All our sessions are listed on fmcc-workplace.com, and there the first post is showing the detailed program, and if you click to the certain items, it will open the detailed abstract, and you also can click on the different bios of the moderators and all of the speakers. So we are at session 5 now. Our last session is session 38. Finally, we would be interested to learn more about your thoughts about our program. Should we do this World FM days in that style more often or not? So you can write us anytime. I think on the last page there will be some contact details. I also want to highlight the FMCC app. It's FMCC at your fingertips. It's available for iPhone, iOS, and Android on the Apple Store, on the Google Play Store. If you click to the presentation, which will be sent to you after the session, you will find it immediately. It's all together with the respective links. And this event wouldn't be possible without the STAG team. I'm really proud that I have been able to establish this team, and I also want to thank you, especially my partners here in the panel, Olumide and Graham, that they are active in our team. Our new STAG chair is Riccardo Grippaldi, and you can mail him anytime if you want to join our very active. STAG means Strategic and Tactical Action Group, and we are, I think, really active. And this wouldn't be possible with all our volunteers here, and we could do more if we would have more volunteers, especially in social media. We need some really activists in order to show our work results and also our activities. We would be also interested, this session today was the first as a pilot in order to start more networking within our council and within the community. So our plan is to establish more of these sessions in order to have more communication, because we learn from each other, and especially this session today, I have taken a lot of things from my fellow colleagues, and I'm really quite happy that you have been joining us. Besides the FMCC, we have a lot of other councils and communities. The communities are highlighted in red. They have merged some of the council to more horizontal focus as business and leadership, operation, maintenance, health and safety, and so on. So thanks first to Graham and Olumide that you have been able to join our session today, and I think we keep in touch. Do you have some final last words, Graham and Olumide?
No, only to thank you, Marcus, for moderating the session and your wisdom, and for your energy in the STAG group. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus, Graham. Thank you, FMCC community, for this opportunity. It's much appreciated.
You're welcome, and see you soon.
All right.
Take care, and thanks to the audience for joining us today. Even if we haven't been able to integrate you into the session, the idea was that we really enlarge our discussion here, and I think we will work and improve our technology here. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.